Since childhood, I have lived off my aunt's family. My cousin kept a ledger, specifically to record my expenses.
One string of coins spent on a hair accessory today. An extra bowl of rice the day before yesterday, equivalent to 3 copper coins. 2 new sets of winter clothes made for the spring festival, totaling 2 taels of silver.
I lived in the Wen household for 9 years, and he kept 9 ledgers. He claimed that paying back debts is only natural.
Otherwise, you must marry me and become my concubine.
I couldn't pay off the debt, but I was also unwilling to be his concubine. I heard that young Master Yan of the neighboring general's mansion was incredibly wealthy. So, I climbed up his courtyard wall and asked him, "I've run up a huge debt. Can you pay it off for me? If you agree, I will marry myself to you." How does that sound? To persuade Yan Zhao to agree, I specially chose an exquisite silk dress and dressed up meticulously in front of the bronze mirror, hoping to seduce him with my beauty. But then I felt that just speaking up so abruptly lacked sincerity. So I made a special effort to pluck 2 small flowers from the top of the wall. My aim was excellent, and both flowers landed right in his lap. Staring straight at him, I said, "Young Master Yan, the debt I owe is a mere drop in the bucket for you. Spending a little money to get a wife for free is a pretty great deal." Yan Zhao happened to be clicking his abacus. Hearing this, he didn't even look up, and actually said coldly,
"Apologies. I do not like taking advantage of others."
"Then let me put it another way." Adapting to the situation, I immediately changed my pitch. "I've taken a liking to you. Could you consider coming to propose to me? Perhaps having never met a girl as shameless as me." Yan Zhao's habitually cold face showed a slight change. After a long pause, he quietly put away his abacus, walked into his room, and threw 3 cold words back at me.
"Not considering."
An unfavorable start. I climbed down the courtyard wall in misery. My maid Lingjie helped steady me.
Cousin, I told you that being so reckless would never work with young Master Yan. Look, you've gone and scared him away.
I patted the dust off my clothes. "It is fine. It is just a temporary setback. It will work out sooner or later. As the saying goes, no man can resist a persistent woman. If I try a few more times, maybe one of these times Yan Zhao will get dazed and agree to my proposal." On the way back, I ran into my cousin, Wen Xian. I originally planned to take a detour, but he had sharp eyes and spotted me from afar. His gaze lingered on me for a moment. Before he could speak, the nanny beside him suddenly gasped,
"Oh, my cousin, you are wearing Yuehua brocade. You are becoming more and more wasteful. How dare you wear such expensive fabric? Indeed, those who don't run the household don't know the cost of living. Young master, you must charge her 30 taels of silver so she will learn her lesson."
I absolutely detested this nanny. When I was 7, my father sent me to the Wen residence. At first, Wen Xian was quite nice to me. The boy would look at me with clear, innocent eyes, calling me cousin all day long. He often took me to the courtyard to watch cricket fights, and would always tell me where the newly arrived swallows had built their nest. Every time this happened, the nanny would sigh and complain.
"Young master, are you foolish? This cousin of yours is nothing but a curse." To protect her mother on the battlefield, the master was pierced through the heart by an arrow and lost his life.
She wept bitterly as she spoke.
Her mother clearly brought misfortune to the master's life.
As she repeated this over time, Wen Xian gradually grew distant from me. She also told Wen Xian that
Her mother had borrowed the master's lifespan, yet didn't live long either. Dying beyond the frontier, her father contracted a grave illness and passed away as well. She is now nothing but a complete orphan. The madam was merciful and agreed to let her stay in the Wen family. But there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. There are some rules that madam cannot easily say out loud, but you must keep them clear in your mind.
She spoke implicitly, and Wen Xian did not understand. He just stared at her blankly, so she simply spelled it out. Her food, clothing, housing, and transportation. Which of those doesn't cost money? As she grows older, there will be even more to buy. Her makeup and dressing up. Raising a girl is always more expensive than raising a young master. You are the only heir of the Wen family. Which part of this estate's finances won't belong to you in the future? She is actually spending your money. You must keep an account. When she marries in the future, make her husband pay it back. Wen Xian suddenly saw the light. From that day on, he kept a ledger in his hands, recording everything. He began to look at me with cold eyes. My aunt lived in the camp outside, while he stayed in the manor. He was the one in charge of the household. At first, I was very sad, trying to please him in fear and trepidation. But as time went on, I gradually came to terms with it, seeing that he was about to write in his ledger again. I quickly raised my hand to stop him. "You cannot charge me for this Yuehua brocade." Wen Xian frowned.
What? Are you trying to dodge your debt?
The Yuehua brocade was a gift to me from the madam of the general's mansion. It didn't cost a single penny from this household. Because Wen Xian calculated the expenses every day, I had also become extremely frugal. I only made 2 sets of robes a year, mending them over and over, wearing them again and again. One day, as I was walking past the general's mansion, Madame Yan spotted me. She frowned at how worn my skirt was, so short that even my ankles were exposed.
"If your mother knew you were living like this, she would be heartbroken. A girl of your age should dress up nicely.
The emperor bestowed several bolts of moonglow brocade upon the general's mansion. She had someone take my measurements and made a few outfits to give to me. This fabric is exquisite. Even in the unbearable summer heat, it remains cool to the touch. When walking, it shimmers and glows, just like moonlight spilling over water. At that time, I thought, Madame Yan is truly wonderful. If only she were my real mother, basking in her motherly warmth. I vowed to marry Yan Zhao. If so, I could call Madame Yan mother with perfect justification. Wen Xian looked at the hem of my skirt and finally crossed that expense off the ledger. But the nanny scrutinized me with a critical gaze.
Even if the clothes were given by someone else, young master should still be on guard. The way cousin applied her lip balm like this, she is clearly determined to seduce you.
Wen Xian raised his brow slightly and curled his lips in a smirk.
It looks decent enough on you, but I've seen enough of it. You can take it off now.
I suddenly found him completely absurd. I didn't wear this for you to see. He was taken aback and then sneered.
Aside from wearing it for me, who else could cousin possibly be showing it to? Could it be that you want to climb over the courtyard wall and wear it for the young master of the Yen family next door?
He was actually quite sharp to have anticipated even this. Seeing my silent admission, he slowly wiped the smile from his face and mocked.
So cousin wishes to climb the social ladder, but I advise you to give up on that idea. With the Yen family master's status, he fancies well-educated and refined young ladies. You are the polar opposite of the type he likes.
I agree with what you said. It does make some sense. But it doesn't matter. I am thick-skinned and persistent. If he doesn't care for me, I will simply do my utmost to become the kind of person he admires. For over half a month, I showed up on top of Yanzhao's courtyard wall right on time every day. I deliberately tried to showcase my talents. Although I knew nothing of the pipa or the zither, I could play the suona. And so, in the hazy night, I climbed up the courtyard wall clutching my instrument. As soon as the brass horn sounded, it was high-pitched and resounding. I played with wild abandon under the bright moon. This time, it did indeed catch Yanzhao's attention, but all the neighbors came running out too, thinking some household was holding a funeral. I had no choice but to climb down the wall in embarrassment. I also tried singing some ballads, but unfortunately, I had been tone-deaf since childhood. I couldn't carry a tune at all. At that moment, Yanzhao happened to be going over his shop's profits. When my off-key voice reached his ears, his fingers suddenly trembled, and the abacus beads scattered all over the floor with a clatter. Even the dog inside the gate couldn't take it and began to bark loudly. Still, I refused to give up. If I couldn't sing, I would dance. But one really shouldn't have blind confidence in oneself, especially regarding skills one hasn't mastered. My left foot tripped over my right foot, and I fell heavily from the courtyard wall. With a loud thud, I ended up with a mouthful of dirt. Hearing the noise, Yan Zhao came running over.
Miss Feng, are you all right? Are you hurt?
It was truly too embarrassing. I shook my head repeatedly, ignoring everything else, and limped back to my room. The next morning, a maid from Yan Zhao's house came to see me, bringing a bottle of wound ointment and many tonics.
Our young master said, Miss Feng suffered this mishap because of him after all. He ought to have come in person to apologize to you, but as it is inconvenient for him to enter a young lady's private chamber, he sent me instead. Please rest well, miss.
The medicine was clear and soothing. When applied to my leg, it felt cool and refreshing. I recalled the past. I had once accompanied Wen Xian to a Buddhist temple to pray, for my aunt's household to be safe and well. A heavy downpour started just as we were leaving. Wen Xian claimed that praying to Buddha required sincerity, and forbade me from taking the carriage back to the manor. I had no choice but to walk down the mountain holding a broken umbrella. The steps were soaked with water and rather slippery. I accidentally slipped and scraped my knees. When I returned to the manor, my body was covered in bruises. By then, Wen Xian had already changed into clean, casual clothes. His eyes coldly swept over the blood on my arm, and he said casually,
You live and eat for free at the Wen Manor, so you ought to make some sacrifices. Think of it this way. At least heaven now knows of your devotion.
He even recorded the cost of my medicine in his ledger. The blood on my arm scabbed over and fell off. Yet, he never offered a single word of concern. In truth, the mishap last night was not even a tenth of what I suffered back then, and it had very little to do with Yan Zhao. Yet he actually sent someone to deliver medicine to me. I held the bottle in my hand, staring at it intently. I couldn't help but think happily to myself. He really is such a warm and caring man. Just like Madame Yan, they are both living bodhisattvas. He is so wonderful that I want to marry him even more now. A polo match was being held in the capital, and I received an invitation as well. The polo match required pairs. I planned to partner with Yan Zhao, taking the opportunity to get closer to him, but there were so many young ladies hoping to partner with him. How could I get him to choose me? I pondered for a long time and decided to take an unconventional approach. Since I couldn't win in a fair competition, I would have to use some clever tricks in secret. So, I climbed the courtyard wall again. This time, as luck would have it, I fell right off the wall and tumbled straight into Yan Zhao's courtyard. Yan Zhao reacted quickly and caught me. My body tilted and collapsed into his arms. It was said that 3 generations of men in the Yan family had died on the battlefield. Because of this, Madame Yan forbade Yan Zhao from from joining the military. So he changed careers to do business, spending his days clicking away on an abacus. I had thought that since he hadn't trained in a long time, he would have grown soft. But now, through 2 thin layers of clothing, I could clearly feel his firm, powerful muscles. He smelled wonderful, like green grass after the rain, making my heart flutter with desire. I quickly composed myself, softened my voice, and just like the descriptions in romance novels, gazed at him with deep affection. "Young Master Yan, for tomorrow's polo match, will you team up with me?" His Adam's apple bobbed slightly, and he warned me in a low voice.
Miss Feng, stand up first.
"I won't. If you don't agree, I won't stand up." I leaned against him, acting weak and delicate, originally intending to use my charms to beg for his agreement, but in the next second, Yan Zhao lifted me up right then and there, the very wall I had struggled so hard to climb over. He leaped right over it while carrying me, landing steadily back in the Wen estate. Under the high, bright moon, Yan Zhao frowned as he looked at me.
What happened today, I will never speak of to anyone else, but I hope you will respect yourself and never do this again.
With that, he turned and walked away, not wanting to stay in the courtyard for even a moment. He went straight back to his bedroom and shut the door. The moonlight cast my lonely shadow long upon the ground. Suddenly, I recalled an old rumor. It was said that there used to be a very beautiful maid in the general's estate. She had feelings for Yan Zhao and had climbed into his bed to offer herself to him. But Yan Zhao didn't touch her at all. He had her dragged out on the spot and flogged, and even had the bed replaced. A man as proper as him must prefer quiet and reserved girls. My actions today probably made me no different from that maid in his eyes. I didn't sleep well that night. In the middle of the night, I had a dream. In the dream, Yan Zhao scolded me with a dark face, blaming me for being too wild and untamed, saying it was simply improper. He even claimed he would never fall for a girl like me. I woke up startled by this dream and couldn't fall back asleep. Clutching my blanket, I sadly wondered if I had moved too fast. Now I'm doomed. I'll never be able to call Mrs. Yan mom anymore. The next day, I looked exhausted and kept spacing out. As a result, whatever Wen Xian was saying in the carriage, I didn't hear a single word. Fortunately, he was so noisy that he finally pulled my thoughts back.
Cousin, a lot of girls want to ask me out today. I can't partner up with you. Go find a partner yourself.
Anyway, I didn't want to be with him either, so I just nodded. Yet, I heard him let out a long sigh.
Just because I'm not with you, you're this sad? Look at your face. How long has it been pulled down? I know you've relied on me since childhood, but you're being a bit too clingy.
Though he complained, the corners of his mouth curled up. I was in no mood to argue with him. Another carriage approached along the path, with the crest of the Yan residence emblazoned on its side. Yan Zhao happened to be inside. Even the wind seemed to enjoy playing tricks. It lifted one side of the window curtain, and his profile caught my eye. He looked cold and noble, like cold jade from a snowy mountain. Recalling what happened last night, I felt as guilty as a mouse that had run into a cat. I hurriedly pulled down the curtain and shrank back into the carriage. Outside the polo field, young men and women were pairing up. It was called pairing up on the spot, but in truth, the pairings had already been decided beforehand. In an instant, I was the one left out. I hadn't slept well last night, and today I lacked the enthusiasm to play. I only wanted to find an old tree to enjoy the shade. I had no idea which busybody went to ask Wen Xian.
Young Master Wen, why is your cousin standing all alone by the tree? She looks quite pitiful. If I hadn't already found a partner, I would definitely go to her now. Are you planning to abandon your cousin today?
Wen Xian, surrounded by several girls, actually spared a moment to look over. After a long pause, he pushed through the crowd and walked over.
Even though I've already found a partner, I am your cousin after all, and I can't just leave you to fend for yourself. How about this? Beg me, and I'll team up with you.
Whether to rest or to watch the spectacle, a large crowd gathered around. I looked up at Wen Xian and shook my head. No, go play by yourself. Probably feeling that I had embarrassed him in public. Wen Xian's expression turned slightly displeased.
Feng Changying, don't be so ungrateful. If I don't team up with you today, will you even find anyone to play with? Don't just stubbornly hold out. Beg me properly, and I'll take you to win the championship.
The young masters around us, always eager for a spectacle, joined in the clamor.
Miss Feng, just beg your cousin.
Who doesn't know that Wen Xian dotes on you? If you coax him a bit, he will surely play his heart out for you.
How annoying. I rolled up my sleeves, just about to lose my temper. A figure suddenly burst into my line of sight, long robes fluttering in the wind, his posture elegant and dignified. It was Yan Zhao, arriving fashionably late. I forced myself to swallow the harsh words on the tip of my tongue. I didn't want to swear in front of him. My image in his eyes was already terrible enough. I didn't want to make him dislike me even more. The sun was scorching hot. I kept my head bowed, looking like a defeated little chick. Wen Xian grew impatient from waiting. He said angrily,
Feng Changying, the only boys left without a partner right now are me and young Master Yan. Are you still hoping that he will come and invite you? If you don't beg me, I'm going to partner up with Miss Zhao. Don't come crying to me later when you can't participate in the polo match.
Before I could even make a sound, Yan Zhao stepped forward and stopped right in front of me. The young man bowed to me politely.
Miss Feng, I wonder if I might have the good fortune of partnering with you for this match.
The once scorching sun suddenly seemed to soften and grow gentle. I had thought that after what happened last night, Yan Zhao would have been completely disgusted by me. I never expected such a wonderful turn of events. All right. I immediately nodded in agreement. Wen Xian's face darkened instantly. He wanted to say something, but the Princess Royal had already announced the start of the match. He only had time to glare at me coldly. Before partnering up with Miss Zhao, he was incredibly competitive today, whipping his steed so hard that it neighed wildly, as if he were fueled by a fierce, relentless energy. Fortunately, Yan Zhao refused to yield an inch. Whenever Wen Xian raised his mallet to strike, Yan Zhao would immediately ride up to block him, maneuvering to steal the ball. With my assistance during the fierce struggle, the ball was cleanly struck straight into the goal. While riding past, I heard Wen Xian say resentfully,
Feng Changying, how dare you side with an outsider to suppress me?
With my eyes fixed only on the ball, I didn't reply. The wooden mallet I swung, however, went straight and struck his ankle. He knit his brows in pain.
Feng Changying, you dare hit me?
I grinned at him, spurred my horse, and slipped away. Although it was the first time Yan Zhao and I partnered up, we had an incredibly tacit understanding, beating our opponents to a pulp. His posture on the saddle was truly upright and handsome. A handsome young man under the blazing sun. The more I watched, the more my heart fluttered with spring-like passion. I pondered whether I should first apologize for last night's setup. I rehearsed the words in my mind for a long time. Just as the match ended, Yan Zhao actually called out to me first.
Miss Feng, I have something to say to you.
He walked toward the riverbank. With my heart pounding, I shrank back and followed behind him. Surely, now that the match was over, he was going to lecture me for last night's disaster. I kept my head down, fully prepared, quietly waiting to receive his scolding. As we neared the weeping willows, he bowed to me.
Miss Feng, yesterday, I overstepped my bounds. I have never encountered such a scene since childhood, and was indeed startled. My words were harsh, and I offer you my apologies.
Having said that, he took out a wooden box.
This is my apology gift.
Inside lay a fiery red tiger head tassel.
Gifting a red tassel to Changying. I hope it appeases your anger, and that you can forgive me this time.
The young man's voice was warm and soft, his tone so gentle it felt like he was coaxing me. It must have been because the match just now was too exhausting. I felt weak in the knees and dizzy. So weak that I wanted to throw myself into his arms. My mind was in a daze, wildly imagining things, even deciding on the names of our future children. Seeing that I didn't take the red tassel, he looked slightly panicked.
Are you still unwilling to forgive me, miss?
I wanted to save face, so I replied, well, let me think about it. He had just finished playing polo. His cheeks were flushed red, and his lips looked moist and soft. I feared that if I stayed in the same space with him any longer, I might do something inappropriate to him. I snatched the red tassel and quickly slipped away. I walked along the river for a long time, but my heart only beat faster and faster. So, I simply sat cross-legged by the riverbank, quietly admiring the red tassel he gave me. The tiger head was crafted so lifelike, with bright red fringe hanging below, looking incredibly heroic. How could he be so clever? Every single thing he gave me suited my taste perfectly. As I was staring blankly at the red tassel, I heard Wen Xian's voice behind me.
Cousin, you made me search everywhere for you. So this is where you've been hiding all this time. What? Do you think that just because you've hooked up with the young master of the Yan family, you can ignore your cousin now? That young master of the Yan family only finds you amusing because you're something new. He is just teasing you like a pet cat or dog. Do you really think he has feelings for you?
I raised my hand and whipped the red tassel out, just about to tell him to shut up, when he suddenly said out of the blue,
That young master of the Yan family already has someone he secretly loves. Did you know that?
Wen Xian's words made me freeze on the spot for a moment. He was extremely pleased with my reaction.
Just 5 days ago, he said it himself while chatting with his friends at the tavern. If you don't believe me, you can go ask the third young master of the Meng family. They all know about it.
Just a moment ago, I thought the lush greenery was beautiful, but now the messy branches and leaves only annoyed me, looking incredibly eyesore. Hearing my own voice sounding bitter, I asked, which family's daughter is she? Wen Kunan did not talk back. Instead, he took me to a tea party.
That is the one.
Wen Xian gestured with his chin. The hollyhocks were blooming brilliantly. Amidst the clusters of flowers, a girl was brewing tea with her own hands. I recognized her. She was Li Jingshu, the second daughter of the minister's household. She was truly beautiful, like an orchid that transcended the dusty world. Even though there were so many people there, I spotted her in an instant. Perhaps catching my gaze, Li Jingshu held a cup of tea and walked over to me.
Changeling, how did you break out in so much sweat? Are you thirsty? Come, drink this water quickly. The sun is quite fierce. There is a huge tree over my head that can block the sun. Come with me.
She was a gentle girl, so gentle that I could not feel even a shred of jealousy. The tea was bitter with a hint of sweetness. I foolishly guessed that Yan Zhao and she indeed suited each other. Liking her showed Yan Zhao had good taste. On the way home, when Kunan asked me,
Cousin, have you given up hope now?
I glared at him coldly. Even if I don't marry Yan Zhao, I won't be your concubine. He let out a sneer.
Could it be that cousin still wants to be Yan Zhao's concubine? I'm afraid I must disappoint cousin again. The Yan family's ancestral rule states they can only marry a wife and are not allowed to take concubines.
To think there was actually such a rule. Hearing him finish, I felt even more sorrowful. Why couldn't I manage to get into such a good family? I was extremely dejected, leaning against the window frame, watching the scenery along the street proceed piece by piece. When Xian pulled out his ledger again to calculate money,
I didn't plan to go to this gathering. Today, I came specifically to accompany you. You must transfer the carriage fare to me. Let's call it 80 copper coins.
This time, I didn't stop him. I was just filled with emotion. If only Madame Yan had given birth to 2 more sons. If she had been a bit more prolific, I wouldn't have to hang myself from this single tree. When Xian looked at my back, calculating silently, he had clearly swindled another 80 copper coins out of me. Yet he wasn't happy at all. I didn't know what was wrong with him. His face was as dark as charcoal. Lately, he didn't even like going out to enjoy the scenery anymore. He just wandered aimlessly around the residence all day. He had finally noticed that the wall separating the Wen residence from the general's estate was a bit low. On the Wen family's side of the wall, there were plenty of messy footprints, clearly visible. A thief had been constantly climbing over the wall to wander around. Wen Xian's face turned completely blue with anger.
How dare you climb over the wall to look for him? Have you no shame?
He immediately called for bricks and mortar and raised the wall by more than 5 feet. Now, even if I had the ability to fly to heaven, there is no way I could cross it. But I didn't stop him. Let him build it. Since I now knew that Yan Zhao harbored a secret love in his heart, I would never climb that courtyard wall again. After spending a few days in a daze, I received a letter. Madame Yan was hosting a banquet and invited me to the general's estate for a chat. I originally thought Madame Yan had invited many young ladies of noble birth, but upon arriving at the general's estate, I was startled to find that I was the only guest. Madame Yan beamed at me.
Chang'ing, you're here. Come closer.
She said the emperor had bestowed another batch of gold and silver jewelry, and since she couldn't wear it all, she wanted me to help share the burden. The food at the general's manor was incredibly luxurious. She piled my bowl high with meat. Food that costs nothing always tastes exceptionally delicious. I ate 3 bowls of white rice in a row. After the meal, I accompanied Madame Yan to feed the fish by the lake. But just at that moment, Yan Zhao walked in. Madame Yan said with a smile,
I suddenly remembered Chang'ing. You are still missing a jewelry box. Wait here for a moment. I'll go look for one. I'll find an exquisite box for you. It just so happens that a Zhao is back. You youngsters should have plenty to chat about together.
I looked up at Yan Zhao, not having seen him for over 10 days. He had grown even more handsome. A dark purple robe complemented his exquisite features perfectly, making his posture look tall and straight. He greeted me, saying,
Miss Feng, greeting.
When I was holding the fish food in my palm, I accidentally dropped a bit too much without realizing. The fish scrambled for the food, splashing more and more wildly. Waves rippled one after another across the once calm surface of the water. I straightened my back and returned his greeting. Greetings, young Master Yan. I knew not why. Greetings. I didn't know why. But seeing him made my heart race instantly. Even though he had his heart set on his white moonlight, I couldn't suppress my own feelings. He and Miss Li were such a perfect match. How could I harbor such inappropriate thoughts? I truly despised myself. I didn't dare to stay with him for long. I turned around and fled, trying to catch up with Mrs. Yan. Yan Zhao seemed slightly dazed. By the time I slipped into the corridor, he was still standing there in a daze. Mrs. Yan also seemed slightly confused.
Chang'ing, why did you run off? Aren't you going to chat with a Zhao?
I shook my head. No need. If we kept talking, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself and might end up throwing myself at Yan Zhao. I quickly changed the subject. Madam, this is truly unique. Mrs. Yan reached out to tuck a stray lock of hair behind my ear.
I used to love buying jewelry and accessories, but unfortunately I gave birth to twins, and both are boys. I would have dressed Chang'ing up with all my heart. It would be wonderful if we were family.
I had been feeling quite downcast, but hearing Mrs. Yan's words, my eyes instantly lit up. Actually, to call Mrs. Yan mother, marrying Yan Zhao wasn't the only way. I grabbed Mrs. Yan's long sleeve and asked her full of anticipation, Ma'am, I don't have a mother either. Why don't you take me as your goddaughter? I can call you godmother. The room fell dead silent in an instant. Yan Zhao, who was about to step over the threshold, suddenly froze mid-motion. Mrs. Yan bit her lip, looking as if she hadn't understood, and asked me,
Chang'ing, what did you just say?
I asked expectantly, Can I be your goddaughter? With a bizarre expression, Mrs. Yan glanced at Yan Zhao behind her. The two of them seemed to exchange a silent, subtle look again. After a long pause, Mrs. Yan let out a forced laugh.
As for becoming family, there is no need to rush. We should take things slowly.
She packed all the jewelry I had taken a fancy to into a wooden box, and along with several newly made silk dresses, handed them over to me.
It is getting late. Why don't you head home first?
I could tell she was clearly seeing me out, so after thanking her for the gifts, I nodded, obediently. As I passed by Yan Zhao, he looked down at me, suddenly raised his hand, and quietly caught the edge of my sleeve.
Miss Feng, are you still angry with me about what happened that day?
I looked at him, utterly confused. Not at all. I pulled my sleeve out of his grasp, and quickly brushed past him. Mrs. Yan had been so wonderful to me, and I felt I needed to repay her kindness. He has everything a man could need. After thinking it over for a long time, I went to the commercial street to pick out fine string, silver thread, and emerald green jade beads. I want to make a necklace to give back to Mrs. Yan, even though my crafting skills are terrible. It is, after all, a token of my sincere gratitude. But while I was working on it at night, I happened to be spotted by Wen Zian, who was wandering around.
My cousin hasn't been brandishing swords and spears lately, but has instead specialized in embroidery.
But this fabric looks extremely expensive. Cousin, you can just pick a common material. Why buy silver thread? Young master, just write it down as 10 taels of silver.
Wen Zian pulled out his ledger and wrote it inside. He warned me.
Cousin, up to this day, you owe me a total of 678 taels, 8 strings, and 6 copper coins. If you cannot settle the debt, you must become my concubine.
I gently lifted the curve of the necklace. I estimated that I would need to find another wealthy young master. When Zian walked away, I pondered over the pattern of the necklace for another long while. The moonlight was thick. I looked up toward the general's estate, wondering if Madame Yan had gone to sleep, and wondering what Yan Zhao was doing at this moment. Perhaps I had been weaving the necklace for too long. As my vision grew blurry, and an illusion actually appeared before me, I saw Yan Zhao appear inside the Wen estate, the hem of his robe fluttering in the wind, slowly approaching me. This man loves to tease women the most, yet his single step made my heart race wildly. I closed my eyes, wishing for the illusion to quickly disperse. But at that very moment, he had already stepped right in front of me.
Where exactly have I angered you, Miss Feng? Why must you insist on building high walls, and insist on becoming brother and sister with me? I hope you will grant me an explanation. Otherwise, I will yearn for you day and night, unable to find peace whether sitting or standing.
I aimed my gaze at that high wall standing right between the Wen estate and the general's estate. Young Master Yan indeed possesses peerless martial arts. To be able to scale such a steep wall, Yan Zhao usually has a gentle temperament, but at this moment he seemed slightly overbearing. He pressed on.
I hope you will give me an explanation.
What explanation could I possibly give? I couldn't very well say I was avoiding him because of a secret crush. I had no choice but to play dumb. What are you talking about, young Master Yan? I don't understand. The moonlight spilled over his shoulders, he said.
Then let me explain. That day you asked me if I intended to propose marriage to the Wen family. I told you that I had no such thoughts. I was just being stubborn. I regret it now. What I want to say now is, it is everything I could ever hope for.
My eyes widened in shock. After a long pause, I asked him in a small voice. Then, what about the second Miss Li? Are you planning to take a second wife?
Where did this second Miss Li come from? What does she have to do with this?
I blurted out everything Wen Xian had told me. My cousin said your secret crush is the second Miss Li, that you two grew up together, are a perfect match in talent and looks, and a perfect match, but before I could finish, Yan Zhao quickly interrupted me.
Don't listen to his nonsense. I did say I had someone in my heart, but I never said it was the second Miss Li. Otherwise, that day at the racecourse, why would I have teamed up with you?
I rubbed my nose. I thought you were just being kind, seeing me get bullied by my cousin, to specifically stand up for me. He was taken aback by my words, then let out a bitter laugh.
Now that you understand my feelings, miss, can you stop being my sister? My mother is not only short of a daughter, she is also short of a daughter-in-law.
I tightly gripped my sleeves, feeling a sudden turn of hope in a seemingly hopeless situation. My heart pounded wildly. Even now, I felt as if I were dreaming. Let me think about it. He nodded slightly. Before leaving, he suddenly leaned down, his breath softly brushing against my face. My body went stiff, and I instinctively closed my eyes. But the soft touch I expected never came. Instead, a cool sensation brushed against my neck. He had put a jade pendant around my neck.
Since I am expressing my feelings, I wouldn't dare come empty-handed.
I hurriedly lowered my head, not daring to let him see my blushing face. It was also at this moment that I noticed a woven knot hanging from his waist. Inside the knot were 2 withered wildflowers. They were the ones I had casually plucked from the wall and given to him that day, so he hadn't thrown them away. He even wore them every day. After Yan Zhao left that night, I stood there in a daze for a long time, unable to control myself, silently marveling at my luck. Feng Chang'ing is truly a fortunate girl. Every summer, Wen Zan would take me to his grandfather's house in Taikang for a short stay of half a month. In Taikang, I thought about many things. I really do like Yan Zhao so much. When I go back, I will have him propose to the Wen family, pay back the money we owe Wen Zian, and then marry me into the general's estate. Thinking about being able to openly call Lady Yan mother, I felt incredibly happy. Wen Zian asked me curiously Seriously, little sister, what are you smiling so sillily about? You've been daydreaming every day lately. Is there some good news? I shared the happy news with him. I'm getting married. He was slightly taken aback.
Are you in such a hurry?
I nodded my head. Yes, it is. I am in a hurry. His face suddenly turned red.
Well, this matter cannot be rushed. The time is not yet right. Taking a concubine before marrying a wife, it would be improper. Just wait a little longer.
I found it completely baffling. What was my cousin talking about? I won't be a concubine. I come from a respectable family. Why would I become someone's concubine? This time, Wen Xian pondered for a moment, a look of struggle faintly appearing between his brows. After a long while, he let out a sigh.
Forget about concubines and the like. We can talk about it later. I have yet to make a name for myself. Once I have achieved great things, we can discuss marriage and taking concubines.
I was startled. The half-eaten milk curd spilled all over the ground. Cousin, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm not marrying you.
If not me, who else could you marry?
Young Master Yan, of course. Under the bright sunlight, I curved my eyes and smiled at my cousin. Young Master Yan told me that he doesn't like the second Miss Li. The one he fancies is me. He also said he wants to come to the Wen family to propose and marry me as his wife. My cousin didn't believe it. Is that so? Anticipating his reaction, I reached into my collar and pulled out the green jade pendant I wore close to my chest. This is the Yan family's heirloom jade pendant. Young Master Yan gave it to me. I even added a bit of embellishment. Oh, right. Young Master Yan also said he will marry no one but me in this lifetime. Wen Xian's face turned ashen, the veins on his forehead throbbing faintly. After a long pause, he said coldly,
Nothing is set in stone yet. What is there to be so happy about? Who knows if he is just playing around? It is still uncertain whether this marriage will even happen.
Time flowed like water. The lotus shadows swayed, and the entire Taikang was steeped in the long, warm summer. Resting my chin in my hand, I leaned against the pavilion railing, watching birds fly across the vast sky, longing to return to Yujing soon. But Wen Xian was truly a jinx. On the day I returned to the capital, Yan Zhao climbed over the wall to find me. But he didn't come to propose marriage. Yan Zhao came to bid me farewell. War had broken out in the northwest again. Now, my aunt was the only general guarding the border. With everything happening at once, a lone general would find it hard to hold out. Yan Zhao took me up to the top of the wall, letting me sit under the high-hanging bright moon. He said apologetically,
Chang Ying, I am sorry. I'm afraid I must break my promise about the marriage proposal. I have practiced martial arts for many years. Now that the country is in danger, I must go.
I was somewhat surprised. The Yan family had served in the military for generations. Yan Zhao's grandfather died on the battlefield at 37. Yan Zhao's father died in battle at 29. Yan Zhao's eldest brother was only 19 when he sacrificed his life. Now, Yan Zhao was the only remaining child of the Yan family. The imperial astronomer had once cast a horoscope for Yan Zhao, saying he would follow in the footsteps of his close kin, dying before the dawn, and dying in Mobei. Ever since the imperial astronomer made this prophecy, Madame Yan had recalled Yan Zhao from Mobei, taken away his red-tasseled spear, and never allowed him to practice martial arts again. Yan Zhao was confined to the general's mansion, and out of helplessness, he turned to managing finances. Only then did people find out. I gently tugged at his sleeve and said, Madame Yan will probably not agree to this.
She will.
Yan Zhao looked at me and said firmly,
Mother will agree. She cares for the people and is the most sensible and righteous person. It is just, Chang Ying, I am sorry. I shouldn't have provoked you, only to leave for a faraway land.
I looked up at the crescent moon, sharp as a blade, listening to him talk about his years in Mobei. Actually, I had lived in Mobei too, but I was too young back then, and I don't remember much of it. I only remembered that mother died in battle to protect the people in the city. Father was a military doctor. He cured the plague in the city, but died of illness himself when the medical supplies ran out. Now, to me, Mobei seemed as distant as the moon. As we finished talking, Yan Zhao handed me a very heavy bundle. I opened it and looked inside. It was filled with shiny silver ingots and banknotes.
This is what I earned from doing business, a total of 7,650 taels. It is all yours.
He was really so rich, but I was a girl of principle. And I never took other people's money lightly. If you marry me, this money can count as your betrothal gift. But we aren't married yet, so I can't just take your money. Yan Zhao smiled, his eyes curving gently.
It is not a betrothal gift. Just think of it as a fine for my previous stubbornness, or as a penalty for provoking Chang Ying, but being unable to keep my promise.
I stared at the money, finally feeling the harsh reality of parting. That was a battlefield, swept by the smoke of war, where life and death were unpredictable. Yan Zhao. Forgetting all propriety, I opened my arms and threw myself into his embrace. You must return safely. He slowly wrapped his arms back around me.
All right, if I return to the capital safely, I will come to propose marriage properly. If I don't return...
He paused, holding me even tighter.
Chang Ying, you must also carve out a world of your own.
He didn't tell me to find someone else. He said, Chang Ying.
Chang Ying, may the road ahead of you be wide and smooth, and may every step you take be filled with light.
Yan Zhao truly knew Lady Yan very well. After hearing that he was going to Mobei, Lady Yan was not angry. Instead, she smiled with relief. She said,
Ah Zhao, go. When a great battle lies ahead, the men of our Yan family never shrink back.
She personally took Yan Zhao to the palace to request the imperial decree to go to the front lines and prepared a suit of armor for him. The stitches were dense and tight, sewn by her own hands many years ago. In fact, she had long been prepared to send him to the battlefield. On the day Yan Zhao set out for the campaign, I went to see him off as well. The fierce sun spilled over the layers of armor, shimmering with brilliant light. He indeed looked best in military attire, but the armor was cold, and his embrace had lost its warmth. I unraveled the tassel I had half made for Lady Yan, and braided it into a sword tassel to give to him. He smiled as he wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes.
Changying, don't cry. I will return safely.
Under the high sky and pale clouds, he rode off, leaving a trail of dust behind, quickly disappearing into the mountain path. The words he said at parting still echoed in my ears.
Today, with the long tassel in hand, we will surely bind the Grey Dragon.
Yan Zhao was gone for a very long time. I didn't used to believe in gods and spirits, but after he left, I often went to the temple to pray, begging the gods and Buddha to keep him safe and sound. I would also pray for rain to save the crops. Sometimes, when it rained heavily, I would walk back to the manor. This time, Wen Xian didn't force me. I just wanted to get drenched in the rain a bit more. With the gods and Buddhas, seeing my sincerity, grant my wish. Reports of victory occasionally came from the front lines, but they also listed the number of those killed in action, which was shocking to see. There was nothing else I could do but go to the temple to offer an ever-burning lantern, and then holding the red tasseled spear with the flame beast head that Yan Zhao had given me, practice martial arts in the courtyard. Wen Xian often seemed lost in thought.
Do you really like Yan Zhao that much?
I nodded. I love him very much. He fell silent for a long time, then asked me,
If he dies on the battlefield, then what about you?
Clenching the red tassel in my palm, I replied calmly, then I will be his widow. He had always stood tall and straight, yet at this moment his shoulders slumped slightly. Time flew by so quickly. As the cold came and the heat departed, spring passed and autumn arrived. My maternal grandfather introduced many eligible young ladies to Wen Xian, but he was very slow to choose, refusing to settle on a marriage for the longest time. That day, on my way back to the manor, on the way down the mountain, I overheard the wet nurse speaking to Wen Xian.
This old servant knows your heart is set on the young mistress. I have a way to help you get what you desire.
What way?
In the broad light of day, the wet nurse's words were truly insidious.
I will go to the market to buy some medicine, and you can trick the young mistress into taking it. That medicine will arouse her desires. The young lady will surely cling to you of her own accord. Once you take her body, won't she belong to you?
Wen Xian had always listened to his wet nurse implicitly, but today, I finally saw him lose his temper.
You are a woman too, Nanny. How could you come up with such a disgusting scheme? Though I have feelings for her, I will never resort to such despicable means.
It was fine. Although Wen Xian is somewhat arrogant and wicked, he hasn't completely lost his humanity. Just as I was thinking this, an unfamiliar voice suddenly came from behind.
While I was away from home, is this how you've been teaching my son?
My eyes widened slightly, and I turned around to look. What met my eyes was a woman in her 40s. Her hair was graying at the temples, and she was covered in the dust of travel. It took me a long moment to realize that my aunt, who had been guarding the border for years, had returned home. My aunt had previously sworn an oath that until Hexi was reclaimed, she would never return to the capital. Now that the front line had won the war, and Hexi had been reclaimed, she had finally returned. After returning to the manor, she discovered the 9 booklets sent by Wen Xian. Her face instantly darkened. Wen Xian pursed his lips and explained in a low voice,
Mother, isn't this because she has been living and eating at our house for free? Besides, Aunt was the one who caused Father's death.
What did you say?
If he hadn't blocked a sword for Aunt back then, how could Father have died? Wasn't it Aunt who caused Father's death?
That day, I saw my aunt holding a whip, chasing Wen Xian all over the courtyard.
You bastard. What nonsense are you talking? You only know that your father took a blade for your aunt. But do you know that your aunt and uncle also saved your parents' lives? When your father was severely injured before, it was your uncle who cared for him day and night without sleep to pull him back from the brink of death. When your mother collapsed among the corpses, it was your aunt who carried me on her back for 30 miles. If this old lady had died back then, how would you even be here today?
Those comrades in arms at the border shared a common spirit, entrusting their lives to one another and sharing life and death. They were my father and mother, my uncle and aunt, and my Yan Zhao. My aunt said to Wen Xian with a solemn face,
The ones you should hate are the enemies who pointed their blades at your father, not the family and friends who marched thousands of miles alongside him.
She truly was a general. The long whip cracked through the air, striking Wen Xian ruthlessly.
I told you to take care of Changying. Is this how you take care of her? You absolute bastard. When I gave birth to you back then, I might as well have just been purging toxins from my body.
Wen Xian listened blankly, no longer trying to dodge. The whip struck his body again and again. As if he couldn't feel the pain, he stared at me from afar. After a long silence, he mouthed 2 words to me: "I'm sorry." My aunt was swift and decisive. After dealing with Wen Xian, she dealt with the wet nurse as well. Once she finally had a moment of peace, there was a question that had been weighing on my heart for a long time. But as the moment drew near, apprehension took over, and I didn't dare to ask. After hesitating again and again, I finally blurted it out. "Where is Yan Zhao? Since you've returned, has he returned as well?" "I'll go to the general's mansion to find him." Without waiting for her answer, I turned to leave, but my aunt called out to stop me. Her eyes were filled with a complex emotion, and her expression was sorrowful and pitying. My aunt told me that Yan Zhao was still in Mobei handling post-war matters and would return to the capital in a few days. She told me to wait for him obediently at the Wen residence. But how long was a few days? It wasn't 10 days, nor 30 days, nor 100 days, because I never did see him return. I suspected my aunt was lying to me, because every time Yan Zhao was mentioned, a deep, inescapable sorrow would fill her eyes. The last time Yan Zhao wrote back to me was half a year ago. He would never have the heart to leave me hanging for so long. I begged my aunt to tell me the truth, so that I would at least know whether my beloved was alive or dead. Chang Ying. My aunt pondered for a long time, before speaking, in a hoarse voice.
On the final night at the northern pass, to lure the enemy deep into our lines, he was heavily surrounded and ambushed. He never returned after that.
I tightly clutched my handkerchief and asked my aunt if they had found his body.
No, but that place was a death trap to begin with. Besides, if he were still alive, he would have found his way back long ago.
Everyone told me that Yan Zhao was dead. Even Lady Yan came to visit me. She stroked my long hair over and over again, and gently massaged my red, swollen eyes.
Chang Ying. He fulfilled the last wishes of his father and brother. His heart was filled with joy. To be buried in a horsehide on the battlefield is the ultimate glory for a soldier.
I too was proud of him. But if he is alive, I must see him. If he is dead, I must see his body. He doesn't even have a corpse. So how can anyone say he is dead? I did not cry. I began practicing martial arts with my aunt. Sometimes, when she looked at me, she would lose herself in thought for a moment.
Chang Ying, it is as if I see Liang Yu in you.
Liang Yu was my mother's maiden name. My aunt did not stay in the capital for very long. She had to return to the border to continue her duties. On the day of her departure, I waited for her in front of the Wen Manor with my bags packed. "I want to go to the northern desert too." She was not surprised. She only asked if I had thought it through. "I have." Chang Ying. The name Chang Ying was born for the battlefield. I want to see if the desert sand is truly as white as snow. Is the moon over the Yan Mountains still shaped like a hook? That place is also closer to my beloved. I am going to find him. The northern desert was indeed vast. I could play the suona on the sand dunes all night long, and no neighbors would ever come rushing over to ask whose funeral it was. I have learned how to dance too, but it is a sword dance. The long notes pierce the wind, and the sword falls like a startled swan. I can even scale the very high walls of other people's homes now. On that day, out of sheer boredom, I found a flask of wine and sat on a sand dune. The Milky Way was faint, the northern wind swept past, and the bright moonlight shone for thousands of miles over the flat sands. In a daze, someone walked slowly toward me. He wore a deep purple robe, cloaked in the stars and the moon, thinking it was just an illusion, and closed my eyes, just like that year at the Wen Manor when I was making the tassel. But when I opened my eyes again, the illusion had not vanished. He had already come right before me, his features unchanged, just as they were in the beginning. He reached out and gently held me in his arms.
Long time no see.
My Yan Zhao. He has returned.